2025 here at the auditorium of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, to answer the call of the International Institute of Islamic Thought, IIIT Central Nigeria office based in Abuja. We are here for a very important public lecture on a matter that is of global relevance and importance, which is, inshallah, is going to be discussed today. Permit me to follow the program as it is here written. We're going to start this very important event with prayer. Let me invite Malam Shitu Muhammad Thani to open the session with prayer. Malam Shitu, for one time Amir of this university of the MSSN, and currently a staff of Nuhuba Mali Polytechnic, Zaria. He is one of the officials of the IIIT Central Nigeria office.
ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين.
Allahumma amin. Inshallah, the next is invoking the blessings of the glorious Quran through its recitation, which is going to be, the recitation is going to be done by Brother Muhammad Abu Bakr. Brother Muhammad Abu Bakr is a student of veterinary medicine in this faculty of veterinary medicine, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Brother Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فناداها من تحتها ألا تحزني قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا وهزي إليك بجزء النخلة تساقط عليك رطبا جنيا فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فإما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نظرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا فأتت به قومها تحمله قالوا يا مريم لقد جئت شيئا فريا يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغيا فأشارت إليه قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا وبرا بوالدتي ولم يجعلني جبارا عصيا صدق الله العظيم.
Allahu Akbar. That has been Brother Muhammad Abu Bakr reciting portions of the glorious Quran. Inshallah, the next thing is introduction of our guests that are around. Let me start by saying that this event is going to be co-anchored by my elder brother, Dr. Sheikh Maidugu, and me. Dr. Sheikh is online. Inshallah, after this, recognizing those who are physically present, he is going to do the recognition of those who are online participants. Let me start by recognizing our father, our model, our imam, Malam Salihu S. Abu Bakr, the chief imam of this university. Malam, as we formally refer to him, was a director for NRLS at some time in his career. Malam, even after retirement, just as is typical of them, was not tired. He served and he is currently serving as the executive secretary of the Kaduna State Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board. Executive chairman, okay, executive chairman of the Kaduna State Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board. I don't want to, the Prophet has said it's not good to praise someone in his presence. I would have said Malam received, Malam was a recipient of an award of, though it was not his career, but in the management of Pilgrims Welfare Board, he received an award last year, which is award for all of us. We are very proud to be associated with that award. So Alhamdulillah. Let me stop there. We are grateful. Malam is going to chair this event of today. Malam is a professional in this field of agriculture. I once listened to a lecture he delivered, and that lecture inspired me. One point he said is, people will go and plant their crops in a field, and they will expect that field to give them what a farm should give. And when the field does not give them what farms give, now they begin to lament. They should know that there is a difference between a field, a piece of land, and a farm. Actually, that point has sunk in my mind, and it has changed my farming practices. Thank you so much, sir. We are blessed to have you as our chairman today. Thank you so much. Let me also now just follow by his right. Is another pillar in the leadership of this university and in the Muslim Ummah of this university. I'm talking of the Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Sahal Junaid. Sir, we're happy to have you for today's event. By his side is another pillar. I'm talking of Professor Abdullah Musa Abu Abdis Samad from the Department of Business Administration. Malam is a BOT member of the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria National Headquarters. Sir, we are happy to have you. You're welcome, sir. At his back is their younger brother, to us a father, Professor Adamu Aliyu. Professor Adamu Aliyu, a one-time national president of the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria, is currently the head of the Department of Arts and Social Science Education. Sir, you are welcome. We have Professor Awal Yahya Ahmad. For anybody who studied around Congo FCE in the last 25 to 30 years ago, would testify to what I'm saying, that Professor Awal Yahya Ahmad has been a mentor for students who lived in that part of the town. He actually contributed a lot in nurturing us. He would pray. We were in FCE. He wasn't a staff of FCE, but he would go to the extent of asking us, where did you pray? So actually, we are blessed to have him in our midst. Sir, you are welcome. The next one is the person we have all gathered today to listen to. I'm talking of Professor Shehu Ado Garki, a research professor in genetics and plant breeding in this university. Professor Shehu Ado was a director of IAR Institute for Agricultural Research in this university. And at one time, he was the vice chancellor of Al-Qalam University, Katsina. Sir, we are glad to have you. Assalamu alaikum. By his side is the convener of this event, Dr. Aliyu Abubakar Tanku, is the coordinator of Institute of Islamic Thought Central Nigeria office. He too, a one-time national president of the Muslim Society of Nigeria. He is a veteran of pilgrimage issues, having worked as a director at the NAHACO, National Hajj Commission. Sir, we are glad to have you. We also welcome our father, Alhaji Yunusa Muhammad Makarfi. Alhaji Yunusa Muhammad Makarfi worked, if my memory is not failing me, with either the Pilgrims Welfare Board or Bureau for Religious Affairs Islamic Matters. Yeah, in the early years of 2000s, with people like Malang Alhaji Balarabe Idris Jigo, Wambambi Nungwari, they would come and inspire us together. You are welcome to this very important event. We have Sir Ahmad Bello Dogarawa, the Amir of the Muslim Forum, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, the professor of accounting, and the finance officer or director of finance of Central Nigeria office of the IIIT. Inshallah, I'm going to continue with the recognition after that Sheikh has recognized those who are online. As I said, this event is going to be co-anchored by the duo of him and me. So Dr. Sheikh, he has not joined yet. Okay, so since he has not joined yet, we can, inshallah, proceed. Mr. Chairman of this occasion, Malam Salihu Santalma Abubakar, it's time now to listen to the welcome address to be delivered by Professor Adamu. With your permission, I call on Professor Adamu Aliyu, the head of the Department of Arts and Social Science Education, and the chairman of Da'wah and the Information Committee of the Muslim Forum for the welcome address. Okay. Now, yeah, I've been. Now, so let me call on the chairman, since the is going to be yet virtual. No virtual present to push us to face the. So, inshallah, the chairman, sir, please, you should lead those who are going to the table. Mr. Chairman, the guest speaker, the convener, and the Dean of Student Affairs. So Alhamdulillah, Professor Adamalu.
My job is very simple. I'm asked to welcome all to this all important gathering and to discuss an important issue, especially in the current dispensation that people are in fact getting confused and confused the more as far as this issue is raised, GMO. And hopefully, as it is said, we've gotten the right person, inshallah, to give us light. I'm therefore welcoming all to this auditorium, and then including those that are virtually touched. I can see we have well over 200 persons that have joined the discussion, inshallah. I do hope that you all stay through, inshallah, to the end of the presentation. And I'm assuring us, inshallah, we have great help to benefit from. May Allah see us through. And with this note, I said we are all welcome. And I wish us happy delivery. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Professor Adamu Aliyu for the welcome address. And inshallah, it's time to listen to the chairman of the event, chairman of this sitting, Sheikh Malam, that's us Abu Bakr, Imam of the Central Masjid of this university and the former director of NRLS and the executive chairman of Duna Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board. Sir, it's time.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيد الأولين والآخرين سيدنا ونبينا محمد خير الأنام وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We thank the Almighty Allah for making it possible for all of us to attend this gathering in which we pray to the Almighty Allah who will gain a lot on an issue that has become very, very controversial. That is the issue of GMO, genetically modified organisms, which, or rather on which we see lots of arguments and lots of submissions and so on and so forth. Many submissions have been on promoting a conspiracy theory that most of what I have read is trying to show that the GMO, particularly GMO in agriculture, as if it were something deliberately promoted in order to destroy agriculture, particularly in Africa, and also in particular also in Muslim countries and other places. Whenever I read all these articles on this issue, sometimes I wonder, I say, this conspiracy that is being talked about might very well itself be a conspiracy. So the important thing is, particularly as regards to this lecture, is that we have been told of something that is very, very disturbing. And the Almighty Allah has already given us a formula. And what the Almighty Allah said is, إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبين أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة وتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. If somebody carrying a story, particularly a disturbing story, comes to you, then you should investigate so that you do not befall or accuse people without knowledge, and then thereafter you come with lots of regret. So it's always very, very important to find out. But unfortunately, even those who are teaching people this ayah, whenever they read some of these articles, they start calling attentions of people to come and accept some of this, I mean, particularly the conspiracy theories that are contained in those articles. They start calling people to come and accept it. And whenever you are going to call people to accept an idea or whatever, which you feel is very, very important for you to call people to accept, then we have a principle in Islam which was established by by the Quran itself, and which was strictly followed by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our ulama, do say that when you are trying to provide a leadership, particularly calling on people to believe in what you are saying, then you must use that principle. قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان وما أنا من المشركين. So, قل هذه سبيلي, you are saying, say, this is my path, this is my path, this is what I believe in, this is the road I am calling people to. أدعو إلى الله, I am calling to Almighty Allah. Allah basiratin. This is very important. Allah basiratin. Upon clear understanding and knowledge. I am those who are following me. So in Islam, you don't call people to any idea whatsoever. If you are not Allah basiratin, you have no clear understanding and knowledge of that particular thing. If it is going to take you years to understand that thing, you should take time before you start calling people to believe in that thing. But the way I see people calling people, to accept some of these ideas indicated in some of these articles on conspiracy theory, you wonder, the person calling them to calling people to accept, how is he calling people ala basiratin, or just doing it just because he thinks, I mean, he is pleased with it? So it is very, very important that we understand these elements. And anything that is based on knowledge, we should respect that knowledge. Repeatedly, we have been told, those who know, can they ever be the same as those who do not know? So many people who talk so much about genetically modified organisms have not even taken time, or at least they have not demonstrated that they have taken time to understand what is a gene. Because genetically modified means you are modifying a gene. And how does this modification take place? Because even in genetic modification, or what can be called genetic engineering, there are different ways of making, genetic modification. So have you taken your time to understand what genetic modification is all about? Do you even know what is a gene? Have you ever cared to know what is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is a very important, component, generally known as DNA, which is very, very important in the elements that build up different organisms, including the human being, including crops and so on. Have you ever cared to know what it is all about? Because genes are expressions of, found in the DNA. And knowledge that the Almighty Allah has given this world about what He has created gave us, we the human beings, gave us the chance to use different aspects of His creation so that we can improve certain things to our desire. The Almighty Allah gave us this knowledge. If anybody is going to say that this is not acceptable, particularly if he's a Muslim, then he must have a basis in the Sharia that he will use to say that this is not allowed. Of course, we have the general rule in Islam: anything that is harmful is not allowed for a human being to use it. Anything that will harm his health or can even lead to his destruction, he is duty bound to avoid it. So that is known. But for you to determine that this particular thing is really harmful, you have to have your very, very good evidence. And for you to even invite other people to believe that this is destructive and harmful, you have to even have more reason and more evidences. So it is very, very important whenever we are going to discuss such issues that we get people who are going to educate us on something that is very, very fundamental. And we are grateful to the Almighty Allah that one of us who has specialized in this area and whose entire life is, in a research in this area, is here today with us to give us as much information as we will care to listen. on this issue. Professor Shehu Ado, like I tell many people, and unfortunately, this morning I also told him. I didn't tell him before, but this morning there is a slip of tongue, and I told him that he is one of those opportunities that Nigeria failed to utilize, particularly in the area of plant breeding. And because, you see, they have been trained over a long time and they have the experience, but nobody even cares about what research in the area of plant breeding, I mean, what it can do for this country. And it can turn a lot of things around. Issues of food security that we are talking about, issues of poverty, issue of lack of employment, and so on. And even the fundamental issue of agricultural development in this country. And I dare say that as far as I am concerned, with all the years of efforts made in the field of agriculture, with all the trillions of resources that have been pumped into agriculture, I dare say we have not even started the journey for agricultural development in Nigeria. Because some of the fundamental things that should be put in place, even the fundamental structures that need to be put in place for us to start moving along the trajectory of development, has not happened, has not taken place. And we are just paying lip service to agricultural development. Many people who talk about agricultural development cannot tell you a very, very clear vision of where they want to take this country as far as agricultural development is concerned. And that is why aspects of research are really in agriculture, and particularly in plant breeding, are relegated to the background. For a country whose population is rapidly increasing like Nigeria, by now, we should have a very, very well-focused plan on how to feed our people in the coming years, even after this generation would have left this clear vision, and a clear roadmap will lead to our vision. After all, having a vision and having a clear roadmap towards attaining that vision is part and parcel of the teachings of our religion, teaching of Islam. More than 800 years ago, our scholars have told us how Surah Al-Asr can become a very, very fundamental tool, or rather guide, for development. You have to have a vision, and you have to have a clear road on how you take yourself from where you are to where you want to go. But all these things, unfortunately, has not taken place. And I must say that understanding genetics is one of those things that our country and our people badly need, because we need to be improving things from the perspective of genetics if we want to move forward as far as agriculture is concerned. And since the theme of this lecture is GMO and Global Food Crisis, I'm sure the discussion or the lecture on GMO will focus more on agriculture, or more on plants, because in genetically modified organism, it can be animals, it can be crops, and it can be other organisms. So, but I most likely I have not seen the lecture and I have not discussed with the lecturer, but I think the focus will be on agriculture. And I pray, may the Almighty Allah guide our lecturer, and may we also understand his lecture and try to see how we can utilize the knowledge that we are going to get. جزاكم الله خيرا. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلي وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد خير الأنام والآل وصحبه أجمعين. والسلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. That has been Sheikh Malam S.S. Abu Bakr, the chairman of this occasion, delivering his opening remarks. From the chairman's remarks, you would believe with me, dear audience, both physical and virtual, I have noticed that we have 18 to 300 virtual participants as of now. And I hope we are going to listen with keen attention. The person to deliver it is somebody who has been trained on that. Allah has said, وَلَا يُنَبِّئُكَ مِثْلُ خَبِيرٍ. No one tells you better than the knowledgeable about something. The IIIT Central Nigeria office has done what is expected of it to bring the Islamic perspective of issues to the knowledge of Muslims and non-Muslims alike. As a comprehensive religion, Islam offers solutions to all problems in the world. The issue of global food crisis is one of such problems that we are facing, not just in Nigeria, but the world over. And just as Malam has said, for us to run away from conjectures, we live in a time when people, because of social media, they pass across anything that comes. Just as the ayah has said, whatever comes, whether it's good or bad, we share it without knowing what really it is. But Allah has said, وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ are those who are knowledgeable about it. The IIIT has helped us in doing that by bringing to its podium today someone who has considerably trained on that, and inshallah we are going to listen to him. But before I call him, let me recognize also some personalities that are part of this very important occasion. I am happy to recognize and welcome our father, Malam Ahmad Bello, the former Amir of the Muslim Ummah. We welcome you, sir. We also welcome, some participants are physical, some are virtual. We also recognize our dear elder brother, Alhaji Jalal Ahmad Arabi, the former chairman of NAHACON, National Health Commission. We also recognize NAMLAS, National Association of Muslim Law Students, National Headquarters. We also welcome Professor Nasiru Meiturari to this very important lecture. We also recognize and happily welcome our brother, Malam Nur Sani Hanga. We also recognize our father, our mentor, Professor Aminu Salihu Mikailu, the former Vice Chancellor of Udu's Kaduna University, and many other places. We welcome our mentor, our model, Dr. Usman Bugaji, someone Dr. Bala Muhammad recognized as one-man committee of elders. He's a thinker, actually an agenda setter for that matter for the Muslim Ummah. We treasure you very well, sir. We recognize Professor Abakar Ismail Shika and a host of other personalities. We pray to Allah to continue to enrich you with more knowledge and wisdom to continue to inspire this ummah. Inshallah, it's time to listen to the long-awaited presentation of Professor Shehu Ado Garki on GMOs. As the chairman has said, GMOs, without being preemptive, are genetically modified organisms and global food crisis and Islamic perspective. We are going to listen to how does Islam view it, what is the spectacle of Islam about this, and what is the way forward. I have the honor, therefore, of inviting Professor Shehu Ado Garki to deliver this very important lecture. With the permission of the chairman, of course. Of course, with the permission of the chairman. Now, you may start, sir.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Mr. Chairman, members of the high table, distinguished participants, both physical and online, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am happy to be here before you to share with you part of what I know on genetically modified organisms, as well as the global food crisis and how we as Muslims should look at it, the Islamic perspective. The presentation outline is given. There will be an introductory part. Then I will talk on global food crisis. Then the genetically modified organisms, how they are developed, their significance, and the controversies surrounding them. Then I will talk about the Islamic perspective on food. Then the lecture will be concluded with some recommendations, inshallah. Now, the global food crisis in 2025 is severe and widespread. This is clear. And the causes are mainly conflict. Different countries are in conflicts. If you took like Sudan, South Sudan, the Palestine, and so many other countries, even Nigeria. So there is global conflicts are accelerating the global food crisis. In Nigeria, we all know farmers are prevented from going to farms in some localities. Then there is issue of climate change. Climate change is bringing difficulties in food production because the climate change results in increased temperatures in some places, increased desertification, and so many other things, as well as droughts, which will prevent the food production. There is economic instability, where you have inflation everywhere. And then more than 70% of the low-income countries report food price inflation above the general inflation rates. So there is also issue of biodiversity loss, where you find monoculture farming, which is generally recommended using the improved technologies. They are also becoming a problem.
and pollinator decline. The insects which are required to pollinate the flowers are also being reduced. Of course, because of some of the hazardous chemicals which are used in sprays. Then there is funding gaps. Humanitarian assistance is declining. So all these things are part of what are causing the global food crisis. Next. So the outlook results in crisis is deepening owing to the conflict, the economic instability, and the climate change. Most of the vulnerable regions include the Horn of Africa, West and Central Africa, parts of the Middle East, notably Gaza and Afghanistan. The situation of Gaza needs no further elaboration. Even this morning, we were told people have been killed just trying to get food. And you find the Israel blocking the route to enable even the humanitarian assistance for food to reach Gaza, starving children, starving old ladies, old women, old men, everybody. So this is really a global problem, which indeed it is I can't even use the proper word. It's very, very unfortunate that human beings will treat other human beings in that way. In fact, not all the human beings, even among the Jews, are supporting this. As we have seen, even in the Israel state, there are people who are objecting to this kind of inhumanity which is going on concerning food. Therefore, there is an urgent need for coordinated global efforts to address the root causes and to ensure that the food is made available to the humanity. Next. Of course, the impacts have been, there are impacts on the food security. There has been displacement of over 110 million people globally, and there is soaring food prices, escalation of social unrest, and so on, environmental degradation from deforestation. Next. Now, this presentation will focus on examining the development, ethical, legal, controversies, and the practical dimensions of the genetically modified organisms. It will attempt to demystify the myth in the GMO to the uninformed public. As the public learn about and experience the benefits of genetic engineering, individuals can make informed decisions. It is hoped that the presentation will guide the debate on adoption and regulating genetically modified organisms to tackle the global food crisis within the ethical and the practical frameworks of Islamic teachings. References will be given to Nigerian situation. Well, the global overview indicates the total world population is approximately 8.2 billion, and there is a 0.84% annual growth rate. The growth will continue, but it will slow down later. Urbanization, which is roughly 58% of humanity now lives in urban areas. Now, urban population are just consumers. They do not grow food, they consume. So this is very relevant as far as the issue of food crisis is concerned, the urbanization. So with this proportion steadily rising, there has to be a way to support the food production process. Next. "2025 has been marked by escalating food insecurity globally. which has been caused by convergence of climate extremes, conflicts, economic shocks, diminishing international assistance. Therefore, there is an urgent need for coordinated efforts to address the root causes, to strengthen the food system resilience, and to close humanitarian funding gaps to prevent further deterioration. The Sustainable Development Goals of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations indicated goal number 2 should be zero hunger. And this zero hunger is globally. So the focus is on ending hunger, achieving food security, and improving nutrition. The comprehensive framework addresses food availability, accessibility, and affordability, because these are the 3 A's for food security: availability, affordability, and accessibility. Effective progress on these targets advances broader development goals by linking food security with health, poverty reduction, gender equality, economic growth, and social inclusion. Of all the 17 sustainable development goals, plant breeding has some relevance in each of them. In fact, a publication has been made in one of the international conferences where plant breeding aspect has been indicated to touch each of the 17 Millennium and Sustainable Development Goals. Now, land is fixed. Population is growing. Therefore, for food to be sufficient, must be improvement in the production per unit area. How do you get that? This is only through plant breeding. So plant breeding is an old practice of crop improvement based on gene modification for economic values. It is both an art and a science. It is art because you will need to utilize your senses to select materials which appear good or better than the previous available ones. It's science because it depends directly on genetic principles. You see, any phenotype is an expression of 2 or 3 things: the genotype, which is the genetic constitution, and the environmental influence. And the third one is the interaction between the genotype and the environment. So for you to improve any material, the improvement should come from the genetics, from the genes. There are different ways of plant breeding, or 2 major ways. One, they call it conventional plant breeding, where you utilize variability, select parents, make a cross, which is called hybridization, and then you select from the progenies the materials which are suiting your requirements. The major thing in plant breeding, or the major aspect of plant breeding, is the issue of variability. Natural variants can be found. And of course, the variability can be caused artificially. Mutation is one of the natural causes, natural ways of getting variations. Although mutation comes at a very, very slow rate. You may find only 1 mutant out of millions. of individuals. But plant breeders can induce mutation artificially if needs be. Then you do the selection, you go and test it in multi locations to see the adaptability. You take it to the farmer's field to test the on-farm performance relative to the existing materials with the farmers. Then this one, as you can see, will take several years for a breeding program to start and to conclude with a registered variety. It will take not less than 10 years. But there are ways to cut number of years. If you can produce 2 crops per year, you may think of maybe not less than 5 years. If you still have additional facilities to make it 3 years, you can still cut the number of years. But generally, the conventional plant breeding takes time. Then the other one is the non-conventional plant breeding. It is called non-conventional because this one, you can use biotechnological tools to manipulate the genes as you like. The gene of your plant can be extracted and inserted into an animal. And that animal, that gene will perform the function it is destined to do on the animal, and vice versa. So this is what the genetic modification, the non-conventional genetic modification entails. You can extract gene from bacteria and insert it to another organism, and it will perform the same function it used to perform in the bacteria. And this is what is the basis of the genetic modification. So the transfer of genes from animals to plants and vice versa is possible using genetic modification techniques. In fact, this is one of the reasons why some people are looking at this as unethical. Because naturally, there are two kingdoms of living organisms, animals and plants. The reproduction, even among the different genera, as you do the classification for those who do biology, from kingdom, you get the family, you get the genera, you get the species. It is only specific, interspecific hybridization, which is simple and common. Intergeneric hybridization is difficult. If it succeeds, the offspring can be sterile. Just like in animals, when you do the intergeneric hybridization between a donkey and a horse, you get mule. And that mule is sterile. That is the end of the, that is end. You can't use it for further generation. Even in plants, you can get that. So, next. So, there are limitations of conventional plant breeding. One of them, it is effective only if source of resistance or source of the gene is identified within cultivated relatives. You can do hybridization transfers block of genes, including undesirable ones. There is what is called linkage. Linkage is the tendency of different genes to remain close, is the tendency where closely related genes are carried together on the chromosome during the meiosis process. And if the genes are linked, you want a gene for high yield. If it is linked with disease susceptibility gene, they go together. You may get high yield, but it will be highly susceptible to diseases. That is when you use the conventional plant breeding. And it requires rigorous and painstaking selection to pick out allied recombinants. Again, this one, the conventional breeding cannot utilize genes in other species. E.g., from sorghum, you cannot transfer genes from sorghum to cotton. or you cannot transfer genes from bacteria to plantain, for example. Now, with the next one, with the non-conventional plant breeding, next. This is what they call the modern biotechnology or the genetic engineering. This one allows you to manipulate organisms, especially their hereditary genetic outlook, to enhance their functionality to provide products and services for human and the environmental well-being. They include the genetic engineering, include the genetic transformation, where you can introduce new DNA to different organisms. And the DNA introduced into the other organism will perform the functions it was destined to do. Then you may have gene editing, medical research in agriculture and in biotechnology. There are some diseases which are genetic. If the disease is known to be genetic, you can simply edit the gene by cutting the gene. By cutting the gene. If the gene is removed, then it means the disease cannot manifest itself. Then you talk of synthetic biology, where you can get biofuel from organisms, some microorganisms, and also bioremediation. Plastics are very difficult to degrade, to degrade in the soil. But there are organisms which can degrade synthetic, which can degrade plastics within a short period of time, just like paper will be degraded in soil. Then you also have pharmaceuticals. Generally, many of the medicines are developed from genetically modified organisms, but people are not aware. The insulin, we will see it next one. I will come to it when we talk on genetic transformation. Next one. Now, the biotechnology projects, and under health, you have gene therapy, you have tissue replacement, you have elimination of disease-causing genes, which is called the gene editing, and you have biopharmaceuticals. You see, tissue replacement, using some biotechnological methods, a limb can be produced artificially, a living limb, which can be attached to a person to a person who has problem with his or her limbs. Heart can be developed through the biotech method, just to be inserted to a sick person. Of course, these things may probably not be available or widely utilized, but theoretically, it has been proven is possible. And many people, because it is personal, they will accept it. They will not consider that it will develop more cancer to them or it will bring so much problem. Similarly, the use of vaccines. Vaccines are mostly developed through genetic modifications, as well as drugs. Insulin is, in particular, developed by bacteria. And the people will use insulin to inject into their bloodstream for them to be to prevent their diabetes disease. Maybe many people did not know it was developed by bacteria. So it was generally accepted. But when it comes to agriculture, as we will see, people will now talk of why should you put bacteria into grain or into seed. Let's go. Next one. So the agricultural biotechnology is actually a global focus. The United Kingdom just recently, in this year 2025, passed its precision breeding regulations. Many of you may be aware the United States has gone far in the issue of genetically modified foods. The UK was lagging behind. And in fact, there were even some speculation that because some UK was lagging behind, that was why there were some anti-GMO propaganda, hoping that they will delay until they catch up. So in this year, the UK has passed down the precision breeding regulations. And to them, it is a major step in unlocking growth and innovation in the new breeding technologies. That one ensures that England becomes a world leader in agri-food innovation while reinforcing food security and sustainability. The legislation brings England in line with the regulatory approaches taken by other countries outside the European Union, such as Canada, Australia, Brazil, Argentina, the US, and Japan. Next. How are GMOs developed? Those of you who have scientific background, you can see on the left side how hepatitis B vaccine was developed using biotechnology. A bacterium is utilized, and on top you can see the hepatitis B virus. The recombinant DNA technology was utilized, and then the recombinant yeast cells were put in the fermentation tank where the vaccine is produced from the recombinant yeast cells. That vaccine produced was now extracted, purified, and used as vaccine. This is in a nutshell the procedure, or the laboratory procedure for development of hepatitis B vaccine. It is similar for the development of insulin. It is similar for many of the pharmaceutical products. And this technique, which is used to modify organisms in making drugs, and is the same technique which is used for making new crops. Plant scientists can add traits to plants that will help farmers without harming consumers or the environment. And the candidate genes are inserted into the appropriate host crops. Then after inserting, you look or you select for the plant that expresses the desired trait. The public perceives biomedicine as much more palatable than crop biotechnology. I don't know why, but you will see even there are some statistics. Okay, 68% of consumers were willing to accept genetic engineering when used to improve human health. However, the acceptance was dropped to only 49% when genetic engineering was applied to agriculture. The agricultural applications of biotechnology have been designed to address the concerns of farming, such as controlling destructive insects and weeds. What are the different genetically modified traits in Africa? 88% of commercial genetically modified crops of the world are also grown in African countries, in different African countries, as of today. The available commercial genetic modification traits in Africa are insect resistance. For insect resistance, we have BT cotton, which is found in South Africa, in Sudan, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Genetically modified cowpea, which is found in Nigeria and Ghana. The genetically modified cowpea was actually the work of Professor Mohammed Ishaku, who was even at Puerto in the lab of his collaborator, Dr. Higgins, for the development of the GM cowpea. Then the third one is genetically modified maize, the BT maize, which is commercially grown for insect resistance in South Africa and in Nigeria. Most of the issues on controversies of the GM came up when the Taylor maize came. Maybe because maize was more popular than cowpea. But genetically modified cowpea was officially registered and released in Nigeria in 2018. Then cotton, genetically modified cotton, was officially registered and released in Nigeria in 2019. The genetically modified Maize, which is the Taylor maize, was the latest, about 2023 or 24. Then the other trait for genetic modification in crops is in a herbicide tolerance. This herbicide tolerance is only available in crops in South Africa, where you have glyphosate tolerant genetically modified maize and soybean, which are commercially grown. Of course, glyphosate is what they call total weed killer. If you spray glyphosate on weeds or on plants, generally, it will kill it. And it is not only the leaves that it will kill, but it will even transmit up to the roots. So this is why they call it total weed killer. Now, this glyphosate, they identified genes which will make plants tolerant to the glyphosate. And they inserted those genes in maize and in soybeans. Remember, I told you the genes from whichever source, once you insert it into another source, it will do its function, its initial function, which it has been destined to. So that is how the glyphosate tolerant GM maize and soybeans are developed. In Nigeria, we have not started using the glyphosate tolerant crops. But this glyphosate has a lot of issues and controversies surrounding it. Because even, I think even today in the morning, I heard somebody talking about the effect of this glyphosate on human beings' fertility. And of course, I also read somewhere they were complaining traces of glyphosate were found in semen, in human semen. So these are some of the controversies which the GMOs are actually carrying. However, these assertions, are they scientifically proven, or they are just, like Malam has said, they are just people who are bringing anything they want to say to the public, and for their own reasons. Okay, so the other trait which genetically modified crops should have are disease resistance. Again, in disease resistance, you can get virus-resistant cassava and sweet potato, which are currently in field trials in Nigeria, in Kenya, and in Uganda, in African countries. There is genetically modified potato, which is resistant to late blight. This one has been released in Nigeria just last year, but it has field trials currently going on in Kenya and in Uganda. Then there are abiotic stress tolerance. The abiotic stress tolerance include traits like drought. So water efficient maize for Africa is being carried out in Kenya, in Uganda, and in Nigeria, as well as Ethiopia. The Taylor maize, which has been officially registered and released in Nigeria, contains some genes also for drought tolerance. Next. So the major question is, are GMOs safe? The answer, you can see, they said yes. The National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine in 2016 reported that. So you can see they have studied over 900 publications for over 20 years with the development of GMOs and so many other things. Next. Now, the genetically modified organisms or foods have their own regulations. And the major regulation or referred to is the biosafety regulations. The regulation reaffirms Nigeria's commitment to the principles of World Trade Organization agreements, especially the technical barriers to trade. And then the goals of the biosafety regulations and the objectives of the Convention of Biological Diversity and the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, which was signed and ratified by Nigeria. So with this, Nigeria will conduct research on genetically modified organisms, as well as release them if they are found to be useful and harmless to human beings and to environment. Next. Issues in biosafety. The main issues in the biosafety are environmental issues and the food or human health, as well as the agricultural sustainability. Under the environmental safety, there are fear of gene flaws from GMOs, which may contaminate indigenous crops. And then there is issue of invasiveness of GMOs, which might become predominant. The belief is that the GMOs are supposed to be stronger and more robust than the existing ones. In fact, that is why the only genetically modified animal had not been officially released internationally. They said I think it is a whale or one of these fishes. So they were saying if they release it, it is likely to kill all the other fishes and be the only dominant one. So the invasiveness on non-target organisms, other effects on ecology and dynamics. Now, non-target organisms, for example, the BT maize is supposed to be resistant to fall armyworm and the other insect, Sitembora. Thank you. You see, there's an expert in the tailor maize in this hall. I've already been told. Okay, so the stem borer, Sesamia, calamistis, or whatever they call it, and then the fall armyworm. These insects are belonging to the same family. And therefore, the BT gene, when you hear BT, BT stands for Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a name of bacteria. That gene of bacteria controls the life of these insects. If the insects have the BT genes, it will make them to feel uncomfortable to eat, so they will die of starvation. That is what that is the procedure for their control of the insects. But this was found to be only active on these insects. It has no effect on your house fly. It has no effect on Apis mellifera, that is honeybee, and it has no effect on any other environmental organisms. This has been tested and certified. Then on food, the major aspects of food is the issue of nutrition, the allergenicity, the toxicity, and what is called substantial equivalence. On nutrition, does the genetically modified food differ in its nutrient composition? That is the question. Then allergenicity. Do people or animal consuming the genetically modified food feel allergens? Does the food make them feel like they will vomit it? Does the food make them feel itching? Does the food make them show any allergenic symptom? Then the toxicity. After eating the food, does it make your stomach toxic? Does it harm your does it harm you generally as toxins harm? Then substantial equivalence. When you compare it to the normal food, you know, how do you feel? Does it show difference physically? Does it show difference in taste? Does it show difference in constituents and other things? So all these are tested to ensure that any genetically modified food is safe before it is approved. Agricultural sustainability, weediness. Like I have said, there were some belief that when you do genetic modification, the genetically modified product will be stronger and more robust than the existing one, and therefore it may overshadow it. It may take over the whole fields or the environment. Then pest resistance development. Well, pests, all living things will find a way to continue living. So if you develop a genetically modified crop, for example, the tailor maize against the insects, those insects have to get food. If there are no food, if there are no other maize varieties which they can feed, then naturally, with time, they will develop resistance. So this is what they are saying of pest resistance development. So that is why research is continuously going on. After developing resistance by one gene, you look for additional gene to add, because generally monogenetic resistance, that is resistance caused by a single gene, is easily broken. So you usually have to add additional genes and continue stacking genes. Then chemical inputs. The issue of chemical inputs here is even supposed to be in a positive way, because if you develop a genetically modified crop resistant to insects, you now don't have to buy pesticides to spray, because naturally the plant is protected. So it is even more of advantage, so that the farming itself will be reduced by the quantity or by the price of the chemicals you will use and the labor you will pay to spray. Then there are some people who feel there may be higher costs. Of course, since you have to buy the seed rather than simply carry your previous seed, there is additional cost on seed. But farmers who are growing even normal conventionally bred hybrids are aware that every year you need to buy hybrids for the hybrid vigor to be utilized. Then there are others which are socio-cultural and the issue of acceptability. Yes, some people naturally, because they feel it is something, some people look at genetic modification as a natural. Therefore, mere looking at it that way will make them feel, no, this is a no-go crop for them or food for them. So these are some of the things which are in the biosafety. Next. There are so many regulations by the biosafety law. It regulates the safe application of biotechnology in the field of agriculture, medicine, environment, and also in industries. These are the four major areas where genetic modifications are utilized. Then it promotes technical and material transfer of research collaboration and commercialization, as well as protect humans, biological diversity, and the environment from potential risks associated with GMOs. Well, nobody knows. There may be some additional risks which may not appear currently. But usually, even in medicine, every medicine you take it's what they call side effects. And everybody knows whoever takes a medicine will now face some side effects sooner or later. But yet people will take it. So these are what what are called potential risks. But generally, no material will be officially released once it is known to have, once it is proved to have any potential risk. Next. Now, there are precautionary principles, i.e., there should be conclusive proof of safety before approval. Then there is benefit analysis. Is the benefit of the technology greater than the impact on the environment? If there are impacts, then cost impact of regulation. Will regulating GMOs increase the price or affect food security? Then product leveling. There should be product leveling for consumers to choose whether they will eat this or they will not eat. These are part of the biotechnological regulations. Next. As far as food allergenicity is concerned, there are only 8 major allergens. 5 of them are plants, from gluten, from soybean, from ground nuts, from tree nuts, and from sesame. And 3 of them are from animals: the dairy, which is milk, the shellfish, and the eggs. Some of these products, like soybean, are genetically modified already. Now, these are non-allergens. The issue is, if the genes are taken from any of these materials for genetic modification to another food, it may be possible the allergens will also be carried, but it is not sure. It has to be proven. So some of these products, like the soybean, are already genetically modified. So the genetically modified food does not become less of an allergy trigger after it is genetically modified. So someone who is allergenic to soybean will still be allergenic to the genetically modified soybean. Next. Now, controversies, some of the controversies of the GMOs. GMOs are used in agriculture, in environment, in health, and in industries. But the most controversies are only from the agriculture. There was almost no public outcry when the techniques of genetic engineering were first developed in the 1970s, and they were used to commercialize pharmaceutical applications. Such as insulin in 1982. Like I have said, insulin is being produced by bacteria, and it is injected into the bloodstream of the patient. If concerns that GMO could trigger certain allergic reactions, again, the biosafety regulation prevents, if there is any allergenic reaction, it should not be approved. Research has shown that genetically modified organisms are not more likely to cause reactions than non-genetically modified organisms. Scientists developing GMOs run tests to make sure allergens are not transferred from one food to another. Next. So, higher nutritional value. GMOs can be engineered to have higher nutritional value. For example, golden rice, which was developed in 2004, satisfies 50% of the daily vitamin A needs per cup, per person. The crop is durable and it can grow in relatively infertile regions of the world where vitamin A deficiency is widespread. Then GMOs also lower food costs. Growing GMOs can lower costs because GM crops play a key role in keeping the costs of food down now and in the future. Like we have said, if the genetic modification prevents insect attack, the amount of money, the amount of effort, the fuel, and whatever is associated in using the chemicals to control the insects is avoided. Apart from that, those chemicals which are sprayed usually also affect non-target organisms. Not only that, maybe just after spraying and it rains, the chemical is washed to the soil and it will end up into ponds, either underground or carried by water to the ponds for consumption. So all these are additional dangers of utilizing the chemicals. GMO crops require fewer resources to grow and allow for costs to go down, therefore reducing the food cost for the urban consumers. The increase in productivity goes hand in hand with savings on pesticides, like I have said. So next one. There are unknown health implications. These are what people are saying. Not much is known about the long-term effects of GMOs on human health. But for more than 20 years, genetically modified foods are being eaten by human beings. So with that, there is issue of at least up to 20 years is long enough for effects to have manifested. Although some people are saying no, more than 20 years can be taken. People are unaware of the vital role GMs play in medicine, and that is why they don't complain. People didn't even know the insulin is also genetically modified. They only know it is to prevent them from diabetes. Most modern biomedical advances rely on the same molecular biology tools that are used to create genetically modified organisms. Many worry that altering DNA could increase the risk of cancer, but there is no evidence to suggest this is true. There is no evidence that genetic modified foods on the market are harmful to human health or the environment. Next. So now, recently they are saying photosynthesis is also possible in animal cells. Those who are not scientifically based, photosynthesis is the major source of food because it is the plants which will utilize the energy of sunlight, then taking water from the roots, chemical reaction occurs to produce carbohydrate. This is what they call photosynthesis. Okay. So this photosynthesis is now found possible in plant cells, which means it may now be possible for animals to not depend on plants for their food. Because if they can synthesize their own sugars or carbohydrates, then there will be no need for eating food. I mean, for eating plants. So these are some of the things which, according to them, this is a versatile tool for addressing human challenges in food production, in medicine, and also in climate change. There is gene editing in crops, just like we have mentioned gene editing in medicine. Again, when you identify the location of a particular gene, it can be cut off. And once the gene is not there, then the function cannot be there. So this one is actually a new area in plant breeding. But then already the anti-GMO activists have started sounding alarm about dangers of the gene editing. Now, the other very controversial issue is the terminator gene technology, otherwise known as genetic use restriction technology. This one restricts use of GM seeds, but it controls the spread of GM traits. Now, the terminator gene technology is a gene which, if it is inserted to the crop will produce grain. And that grain, when you plant it, will not germinate because that terminator gene will terminate its life already. So this is a major danger which the activists of anti-GM were posing. However, so far, the issue of use of terminator gene technology is still subject of ongoing debate. Serious debate is going on that it should not be allowed, and the issue of not allowing it to be used on crops is greater than those proposing to use it. Those proposing to use it also mention that it can be used to control the spread of other GM traits. Because if the seed you have already developed will not germinate, so it will have it will not be able to send its gene to anywhere any longer. It will only be consumed. Next. Now, Islamic rulings on GMOs. I think it's the third aspect I am to talk. It is permitted to study biotechnology and genetic engineering Islamically. And studying and researching genetic engineering is permissible if the purpose is to benefit humanity and remains within ethical limits. Ethical and moral considerations, which are from Maqasid Sharia, they emphasize issues of human welfare, protection of life, environment, and this should guide the research and production and consumption of GMOs. This means genetic modification technology should be used responsibly, avoiding risks and serving beneficial purposes. Next. The GMOs and genetically modified foods are permitted based on Islamic jurisprudence and the ethical principles. Permissibility based on benefit and harm, halal and tayyib requirements. The genetic material from haram sources should not be used in genetic modification for Muslim food. Mixing halal and non-halal genes is also haram. Caution and continuous research. Since genetic modification technology is relatively new and its long-term effects are not fully known, Islamic scholars urge caution, monitoring, and further research. However, consumption is allowed as long as no harm is proven. Next. Sometimes in 2010, there was an international workshop for Islamic scholars, which was held in Malaysia. They have adopted a resolution that accepts genetically modified crops and genetically modified food products as halal or acceptable under Islamic law as long as all ingredients used to develop them are from halal sources. The workshop, which was entitled Agri-Biotechnology Sharia Compliance, was jointly organized by the Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center and the Malaysia-based International Halal Integrity Alliance. Participants included high-ranking ulama from Saudi Arabia, from Afghanistan, from Iran, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, and scientists from Malaysia, from the US, from Iran, from Egypt, etc. Now, Islamic perspectives on food. If you check Surah 6, verses 141 to 142, it has given some information about both plant and animal foods. Verse 141 talks about Allah's provision of different types of crops, tree lives which are supported and the ant lives which are not supported. It talked about date farms, crops of diverse tastes, olives, pomegranates that are similar but yet different. The issue of the plants are similar but yet different is talking about their genetic distinctions. Then this verse instructs Muslims to eat of the fruits when they ripen and to give the cut. Once you produce and it reaches nisab, you must pay the zakat. It says, do not be wasteful, for Allah does not love the wasters. Again, Western food, as we will see in other parts of the Quran, Allah does not leave the Westerners. In fact, there was a one-time information which also circulated on social media. Maybe many might have seen it. Some Nigerians went to a restaurant in Germany. They bought food so much beyond what they could consume. They left the remaining. And then as they were walking out, a policeman gave them a bill to go and pay for fine. They said, for what? They said, you wasted food. They said, but we paid. Then he said, yes, money is yours. Food is our own country. It's our resource. We will not allow wastage. So for that, you must go and pay fine. So waste of food, even internationally, should be recognized and should not be allowed. Especially where cases we have people who are hungry, who are in need of these foods. In fact, there was again one of our lecturers at one time told that there was a country which produced a lot of cheese. They didn't get people to order for it, so they are contemplating what to do with it. And instead of them to send it to countries or poor countries which may need it, they gave it back to the animals. Another lecturer also told us there was a time when one country produced a lot of grains. Again, nobody ordered for the grains. They don't need it. And instead of them to give it, they went and dumped it into the sea. So these are some of the feelings which Muslims shall never have. Because issue of life is very sacred. And whatever will maintain life must be supported. In fact, we all know of the hadith which indicated a prostitute by simply giving water to a dog, Allah forgave her. Despite the gravity of prostitution, the gravity of zina, but merely offering water to a thirsty dog, Allah forgave her. Similarly, we also know of the converse story of a lady. Again, this is also a lady, but it applies to men as well, who was very pious, very religious, but yet she kept a cat and refused to give it food. And because of that, Allah had punished her for she didn't allow the cat to go and look for the food on her own, and she didn't give it food. So this kind of lessons should be imbued by Muslims to ensure that food security or food availability is made to the human beings. Verse 142 mentions various livestock, those for carrying loads and those for eating. And the verse says that believers should eat from what Allah has provided and avoid following the footsteps of shayateen, who seek to mislead people regarding lawful and unlawful things. So a holistic framework linking gratitude, lawful enjoyment, social justice, and the environmental ethics in matters of food and resources are given in these verses. So the verses offer guidance for moderation, for charity, for sustainability, and respect for the blessings Allah has bestowed. Next. Now, in Surah Yusuf again, you all know, verses 47 to 49, you will find where food security requires strategic planning and foresight, then resource optimization and storage, control consumption and moderation, social justice and fair distribution, sustainability and moral values. Islam views food security not only as an economic or technical goal, but one imbued with ethical, social, and spiritual meaning. I will refer to some of this later in the presentation with regard to Nigeria. Now, the lessons are highly relevant for the contemporary challenges. In Nigeria, as of today, only 4 states out of the 37, including the FCT, have buffer storage to checkmate occasions when there is food emergency. The states are Niger, Gombe, Oyo, and Kano. And all the other states did not comply to the 10% buffer storage, even with the support of, given by federal government. State governments should be urged to comply with the 1978 policy that stipulated them to put in place a buffer storage of 10% of their annual food production. This was just recently re-echoed by the current Minister of Agriculture. Maybe some of you might have read it. Now, what are the GM crops? We have mentioned there are 2 BT cotton released in IIR in 2018, 1 BT cowpea released in 2019, and then 4 Taylor maize hybrids released in 2024. The Taylor maize hybrids were released for improved insect resistance and the drought tolerance to boost farmers' yield per hectare and complement existing demand gaps. You can see the pictures indicating the susceptible variety and the BT material. Next. Well, this is Professor Muhammad Ishaku, who was the person in Nigeria behind the genetically modified cowpea. He's working in a lab. I don't know whether it is in the lab of Futeriku, where they went to do the genetic transformation. Next. So these are some of the things in the laboratory for the genetic modification. Next. Okay. So these are the cowpea, the genetically modified and the normal ones. Next one. So it is safe. Is it safe for consumption as food and feed? Yes, it is, since it has been recognized. I mean, approved officially. Next. Still, you can see Dr. Ishaku. This is in his IR greenhouse, trying to make some crosses in cowpea. Next. So this issue of in Nigeria, we cannot do the genetic modification is not correct. There are laboratories which, with some maybe additional equipment and of course funding for consumables, these things can be done locally. In Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, the biotechnology lab of the Center for Biotechnology Research and the Training, which was equipped by Sir Joseph Sunusi when he was the central bank governor, as what is they call public responsibility to ABU. At the time it was equipped, somebody from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture in the Directorate of Agric Sciences told us that the equipment therein are not less than what the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture had at that time. So those things are enough to enable even local production of these genetically modified materials. Maybe by now, since it is over two decades, additional equipment might have been available. But the major critical issue, even the funding to procure consumables, were not available for the center. Well, at the Department of Plant Science in Faculty of Agriculture, Kak House Trust, also when I was the executive director of IIR, intervened in our biotechnology lab. They brought equipment which would enable a lot of these biotechnological manipulations. I don't know how current the lab is, but we have the facilities and the manpower, which we need to train more. The manpower may be less, but it can be trained. People can be trained to conduct such activities, so long as there will be the support for the equipment and the consumables. Unfortunately, the government budget, you will find up to June, I think some of our agricultural researchers were saying government did not release any money for research for 2025. So I don't know. Next one, please. Then Taylor maize. This is the major issue where GMO in Nigeria was talked about. The Taylor is derived from Latin word to tailor, which means protection or shield. So simply the maize is shielded against those insects. Taylor maize was initiated as public-private partnership to ensure Africa grows and adopt drought-tolerant and insect-protected maize varieties. Next. So you can see the effect of drought on the right or on the left-hand side, where if it comes at flowering or at the grain filling, you may lose your crop. And you can see the effect, how the insect will butter all the leaves, thereby reducing the photosynthetic areas, which will definitely reduce the yield. And on the other side are the insects, the fall armyworm and the stem borer, which are devastating maize field. So the BT maize is resistant to these insects. Next. These are samples of this is how a GM hybrid will look like. And that is non-GM hybrid. And then the other one is the Czech, which was devastated by the fall armyworms. Next. Conclusion. GMOs represent a crucial advancement in the field of biotechnology, offering a myriad of benefits that span across agriculture, food security, health, industry, and the environment. The GMOs have the potential to address pressing global challenges such as medicines, food scarcity, malnutrition, and the environmental sustainability. The anti-GMO movement has capitalized on consumer ignorance with an effective marketing campaign against GMOs. Use of transgenics in biomedicine creates very little controversy, even though the process to develop a medical product is almost identical to the one used to create a GMO seed. Next. Anti-GMO activities raise unnecessary anxiety among consumers. As the public continues to learn about and experience the benefits of the genetic engineering, propaganda about GMO food could fall on deaf ears. The public may gradually embrace GMOs and the next generation gene-edited foods as they do bioengineered pharmaceuticals. Effective storage management helps prevent post-harvest losses, which are a significant challenge where inadequate infrastructure often results in wastages. Next. Recommendations. A robust and well-funded agricultural research system is essential, not only for developing new technologies, but also for effectively promoting their dissemination and adoption. Highlighting the consumer-centered advantages of GM foods and next-generation edited crops can help alleviate unwarranted concerns about crop biotechnology, similar to how public acceptance grew in biomedicine. Consistent and increased financial support for research at universities and national agricultural research institutes must be maintained to ensure the ongoing innovation of technologies that contribute to the country's sustainable food security is maintained. Next. Government at all levels should invest in well-managed storage infrastructure to contribute to national resilience against food crisis, support the goals of sustainable food security, and protect public welfare by safeguarding a reliable food supply during emergencies and economic shocks. Next. I hope the audience is now better informed about the global food crisis and GMOs, as well as the Islamic perspectives on these issues, enabling them to make more rational and thoughtful decisions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah for such a blessing. Indeed, having the likes of Professor Shehu Ado Garki in our midst is a blessing. At this critical time of need for such critical explanations, we count this as one of Allah's blessings upon us. We thank Allah for this. We pray to Allah to reward him most benevolently. I'm sure a lecture of this nature will stimulate a lot of questions and reactions from both physical and online participants. We have spoken with the chairman. We had to allow Prof to exhaust his bag, even at the expense of the questions, because of the critical need for this paper to be actually presented to the end. I've also spoken with the chairman that we have an online anchor, Dr. Ashek Maidugu, who is coordinating online participants. And inshallah, together with him, we are going to anchor this session of questions and answers, but we are going to be very swift. We're going to take only a few. There are a lot of suggestions, including the one that says this lecture should be repeated in Hausa. That this lecture should be repeated in Hausa at a place at the center of Zaria, so that everyone will attend. And it should be presented. If this actually passes its scale through, the coordinator is hearing, we expect that, inshallah. So, with the permission of the chairman, Dr. Ashek is already there. So I introduce our brother, Dr. Ashek Maidugu, to coordinate one or two of the online participants to ask questions. And then we take also one or two from the physical ones. Then we move on to our goodwill messages, inshallah. Dr. Ashek, if you are prepared, the floor is now yours, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sorry,
my
for those who want convenience, when you go out, somebody is going to be stationed there to direct you to the place, inshallah. So, Dr. Ashek.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My distinguished brothers and sisters,
Dr. Ashek, can you hear us now, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me also?
Brother Dr. Ashek Maidugu, can you hear us, please?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, before he unmutes himself and gets ready, let's take one or two. I can see Dr. Alfa raising up his hand. I can see Prof. AI Shika. So we said just to, please, I beg your pardon to let only this one speak and then the online also speak. Dr. Alfa, You can come forward. Yes. Yes. So, briefly.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Garki, for the elaborate lecture. It was quite an eye-opening one. You know, for those of us that are medically inclined, we already know about genetic modification, and as a matter of fact, we know that all human beings are genetically modified. We are all crosses from our parents. So in case people, so we're all doing conventional genetic modification on an ongoing basis, but we don't seem to see that as that. So, but Prof, my concern is, you know, with regards to, you know, these products, seeds that have been genetically modified and have been patented by companies that usually lead this research and therefore control the availability of these seeds and this thing. And especially in the light of what you highlighted about poor funding for, you know, our own indigenous ongoing production of is therefore that we do not have, you know, the control for the seed as of yet, even though we have the potential to have it, but we don't. So what would be a recommendation? Because that is the perspective from which some people are also skeptical. Because if, as you said, some of this is such that you cannot take from the yield and just replant as we do with the other seeds. If we have to always buy seed, and these seeds are controlled by companies that are not indigenous to us, and you know, it therefore means that there is some economic conundrum that we are in. So please, what is your recommendation on how we can go about this? You know, given of course the numerous benefits of genetically modified crops to our setting. Thank you very much.
MashaAllah. Prof. Shika, we take your own. Dr. Sheikh, I hope you are ready now.
Yes, I have been ready. I'm ready. If you can hear me.
I really commend the lecturer for his wonderful presentation. He has really portrayed an expertise in this area. I am a local farmer for more than 40 years because I grew up in farming. I am among those who are very skeptical about the issue of GMO. In fact, I have never planted any GMO seeds because of my skepticism about it. And I made it mandatory for myself to attend this symposium, particularly seeing our Sheikh, SS Abubakar, being part of the organizers and a new Sheikh. We respect you. We know that you will never lead the Ummah astray. We have that confidence. With this development, I a little bit withdrew hesitant I have about the GMO seeds, particularly the last aspect of the lecture where you pointed out international scholars' view on the issue of the GMO, particularly if it is done with halal and with God consciousness. But the question still that is ringing in my mind is, are we sure in Nigeria we are going to have people like we have in Malaysia, where they are guided by the religious ethos to ensure that the GMOs are not fully in line with the Islamic Sharia? That is the question. Because in Nigeria, we know how we are in the nation. There is a problem. If people like Sheikh SS Abubakar and our professor, Shehu Ado Garki are the people to spearhead this issue of GMO. Wallahi, wholeheartedly will accept it. But you will know how we are. And you are talking about the issue of allergy. Let me tell you, due to poverty in Nigeria, the seed that was chemicalized for planting, people took it, wash it, and cook it and eat. Even if the allergy is there, due to the level of poverty in the country, they will never know there is anything allergy. Let have something to put in the stomach. So the issue of allergy is people like us who are literate that will know that I'm allergic to this, allergic. Wallahi, at the local community, there is no allergy. The stomach should get something coming. Wallahi, that's the truth. Then the other issue is the issue of fear of Almighty Allah in the whatever, the biotechnology and whatever. In the pharmaceutical industry, wallahi, we are gone. Like it almost some things that may be dangerous, even medical doctors justify to that. But the only thing that remains is this issue of agriculture, where we can control. Where is Al-Magadede sits? You know what I call Al-Magadede? People like Professor Adamalu and others, they know what I call, what we mean by Al-Magadede. The maize that has different colors, blue, red, yellow, and whatever. Why is it now? And let me tell you, we have instances where children, even those who are antagonistic to the issue of GMO, they have reason to be antagonistic to it. Wallahi, at JS2, we have a child who was diabetic. At JS2, we have children who are hypertensive. So this cannot be far-fetched from all this, what they consume. Chemicalized food. And the nature of how the food is cooked, 15 minutes near soup is finished. So honestly, these antagonists of GMO seeds, whether we like it or not, they have every reason. But now, with scholars like you, we have no option. It's like we found ourselves that we have no option, that we have to go for it. Is once it is not contrary to Sharia. But I think, sir, we need to come up with more things to convince the local farmers, We have a seed that is called Pioneer. That Pioneer can give you 80 bags per hectare. And now we have a more modernized one, DK777. You can get almost 100. But decent farmers cannot buy these seeds. And you have to buy it every year again and again. Like the DK777. Now, per hectare, you have to spend 200,000 naira to get that seed. So you can see, even if the tailor maize, DK7 Pioneer, or whatever that is brought, if you are poor, you cannot go for it. That's the problem. And people will remain in destitution and poverty. Thank you very much, sir.
Alhamdulillah. So Dr. Sheikh has now connected. Okay, you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Loudly and clearly, sir.
Okay, thank you. I have been connected, sir, since the beginning of the program, sir. Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, we have a pool of participants, online, very encouraging. There was a time we are up to 350 and more than 350. So Alhamdulillah, it's a welcome development. We have questions posted by our participants. One of the questions is from a brother, Rabiu Adamu, and he's asking, why is it that why will Nigeria pursue GMO when we have over 54 million hectares of arable land? We have the land resources. Why should Nigeria, with 54 million arable land, pursue GMO? That's question number one. Then we have also a question from a brother, Usman Muhammad. He said, can you please elaborate on this issue of terminator seeds? Why terminator seeds? Is it just for commercial purposes? That's the question. Then the third one, is from a brother that hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
please?
hear you, sir. We can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay. So these are the two questions, please. And then we have another one from Lukman Sani, and I think it's a comment that the main issue is wood GURT, GURT is the major issue. Why render a seed sterile? So these are the three that I got here. Then brother Dr. Jamil Ismail Ahmed said GMO is positive in terms of agricultural development, but we need to work on having evidence-based to refute allegations against GMO. So I think these are the three questions and the comments. I hope that our guest lecturer have gotten the questions so that he will respond to that. Thank you.
MashaAllah. There is one other online question. Why does it seem that most of the crops that are being used and tested are mostly in African states alone? Maybe why is the experiment taking place in Africa, not elsewhere? With the permission of the chairman, I call on the guest speaker to respond to the questions.
Okay. The first question, which was made physically here, was on the issue of patented and the issue of control. Yes, multinational companies had investment in agriculture. It is their money which is used to conduct research, identify, and perfect the technologies. Therefore, naturally, they should be entitled to get to recoup their investments and even get profits. So that is why it is patented. So if anybody wants, then he or she can enter into agreement with them with whatever, with the material transfer agreement to utilize their ideas. However, let me mention the BT cowpea. The technology has been granted for free through the African Agricultural Technology Foundation. So that material is accessible to members of the public for free. Now, if you fear control, which everybody should fear naturally, then there may be two options. If indigenous companies can sponsor such research, which may be a little bit difficult because of the costs involved and the fact that we are not used to these things, or the government. Government entered into international agreements on the GMO. They started by establishing the National Biotechnology Development Agency, now National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency. they have approved biosafety in Nigeria by establishing National Biosafety Management Agency. So if the government could, since it has established these agencies, should also sponsor the actual biotechnology work, indigenous, like I have said, issue of training and retraining is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be a problem. Then provision of the necessary equipments and machineries. Then we can talk of developing publicly owned materials, which may not have to be patented. And that is the only way I think we can prevent the issue of control on this. Then the other question, why pursue GMO, despite the fact that we have abundant land resources? Well, you have mentioned we have abundant land resources in Nigeria, but I think I can say we do not have, because you see, the land resources is supposed to be for agriculture, which will be crop production and animal production. Then you will use the other for settlements. Other part will be used for what is it called? What do they call it? Sightseeing, for pleasure. Now, and yes, for infrastructure development, as well as human settlements. Nigerian population is increasing by the day. Therefore, the land you are saying we have it in abundance will very soon be encroached by these activities. So the best option is to develop technologies which will give you high productivity per unit area to be able to cater for the population development, which the GMOs are part of them. They may not be the only ones, but they are just part. Then the other question, I think from the online, is elaboration on terminator gene technology. Yes, terminator gene technology, it is a gene which if it is inserted in a plant, then the seed of that plant will not germinate. It will die as the plant develops, as the fruit develops, or as the seed develops. So that is why it is called terminator. The life of the seed is already terminated. So when you plant, it is dead, so it will not appear. So that is what is called the terminator gene technology. But like I have said, this is a major issue and an area where a lot of debates are going on whether they should be allowed to be used or not. So far, they are not being used. The proponents are saying if you use it, then you are protecting your thing. It will not even contaminate or go to another field. Then the second question was also is the same thing, on terminator gene. Then the last question, why are most crops tested in African states? Well, the issue of why most crops, I don't know what he meant by most crops, because, okay, let me talk on cowpea. Cowpea, the largest producer of cowpea in the world is Nigeria. the largest consumer of cowpea in the world is Nigeria. So on basis of the level of production and level of consumption, the best place is to test it where it is best utilized. I think this is the principle. So Niger Republic grow a lot of cowpea, but you may be surprised. In the past, in Niger, they were not even eating the food from cowpea because they considered it as a poor man's food, and nobody would want to be associated with poor. Yes, I remember. I think there was a time the government campaign. The head of state had to go and collect people. They brought different recipes on cowpea, using cowpea, for him to demonstrate he too was eating. The head of state, I can't remember who he was at that time, just to encourage them to feel that, you know, this is culture, this is part of the cultural adaptation. Okay, then maize. Yes, water efficient maize for Africa is being developed in Kenya, Taylor maize in Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia. Well, these are major countries which are growing the crop. But it is not true to say only these crops are grown in Africa. However, you know, Africa is one of the countries which also has major problem of the issue of food insecurity. The Horn of Africa, as I have indicated, is part of the areas where you get a lot of food insecurity. And if a variety can resist some climate extremisms like drought, I think it is good, because a lot of the African portion, if you look at the Sahara Desert, the vast area of the Sahara and the Sahel, even the Sudan, are experiencing lots of droughts. So again, I think it is not for any bad omen, but rather because the area would actually need it, and you need to test and ensure that it adapts to the environment. This is, I think, briefly what I can say concerning the testing the crops in Africa. Yes. I have finished.
So Alhamdulillah, we want to
Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Yes, I saw you, sir. Okay, the issue is that if we recognize you, can you speak so that we can give
Persons
you?
online cannot hear the speaker, please.
I will do that.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Those of us online cannot hear the meeting.
Yes, we can. We have lost the sound, please. Audio. We have lost the audio. We've lost the audio, please. We've lost the audio. Yes, we can hear now.
What of now? Are we audible now?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
go ahead, introduce
now
the
yes, we can hear you.
online Goodwill messages.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We have in our midst our distinguished elders, and in this order, I will wish to invite Dr. Usman Bugaji, Sheikh Ahmad, Bello, Abu Maimuna, and then Raji Jalal Arabi of Goodwill message. We'll start with Dr. Usman Bugaji, please.
Okay, but before he starts that, it's also Professor A.S. Mikael. He's also going to be part of them, sir.
Okay, sir.
So Dr. Usman, sir, you can start.
Take another spoon. Okay. Can I speak now?
Yes, you can speak, sir.
Yes, sir, you can speak.
Okay, let me first appreciate the efforts of IIIT and the lecturer himself, Professor Shehu, and the chair, and all those who have contributed. Very interesting debate. I'm very happy that we are having these kind of discussions, and I think we need more of them. Now, I have 3 points to raise after the appreciation. The first is, as activists, we need to interrogate the very logic on which the GMO project is predicated on. This is to say, the project is predicated on the logic that land is fixed, population is growing, and therefore productivity is limited. And therefore we need to find how technology can lead to more production to meet the growth in population. Now, this logic itself needs to be interrogated sufficiently. How true? How is technology the only path available? Are there other ways to do it? Because too often, very logical arguments are used as a cover for very predatory, sometimes criminal activities. And therefore, we should not take very logical arguments for granted. We need to do a thorough interrogation of the logic itself. The second point is to say that in all these discussions, we have looked at the need for increased productivity to be able to cater for future population growth. But we have not discussed the actual commercial interest of the West in all these GMO projects. Who is going to be the real beneficiary? Are there, granted the argument holds, are there other interests that are pushing for this? And are there other predatory institutions that are waiting to cash in to this particular technology, knowing very well that they are well ahead in that technology and we've been deliberately being kept behind? When I say we here, I'm referring generally to Africa and other non-developed or developing nations, as the
term is commonly used. I don't necessarily agree with the term that is used. So this is a second point. It's very important to discuss the interests of the West in all this. The big Western conglomerates that are waiting to cash in. How are we going to free ourselves from that likely clutch? And we have seen these in a number of other ways. Thirdly, and finally, in terms of the issue that I think we need to consider, is that, okay, technology is everybody's heritage. It's not something that is unique for any particular part of the world. Now, have we considered alternative ways of solving the same problem? Granted that the problem as presented genuinely exists. Now, do we have an alternative to what is being suggested? Because the West's own approach is always limited to their own vision. And their vision is very much limited, you know, because it's entirely worldly. We need to reflect back in our own resources. And we need to understand that West is thinking along a particular linear line, meaning that as the world progresses in time, it transcends technology and becomes a more perfect society. On the other hand, in the Islamic cosmology, development and technological perfection is cyclical. It does not mean that the societies that are moving forward are necessarily having the best of technologies. There are other technologies that have existed in the past. We may have lost a good part of that knowledge to time and exigencies, but there is a possibility of falling back on earlier technologies. And there are so many ayahs of the Quran that make reference to this. Time will not allow me to elaborate, but these are the three areas. Just to recap, we need to interrogate the logic itself. We need to investigate the Western commercial interest, and we need to think about alternatives. You know, as Muslims, we have a broader horizon. We have a deeper heritage of knowledge to draw from. We should not limit ourselves to the very scanty, very narrow thinking that is associated with the West. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, sir, for these important points that you've highlighted. I think is food for thought. We need to interrogate the logic and then the commercial interest, and then look at other alternatives, viable alternatives to face the so-called food crisis. Thank you, sir. Then I will now call on Sheikh Ahmad Bello, Abu Maimuna, former Amir of the National Islamic Center, to give us a goodwill message. Sheikh, tafaddal mashkura.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To, ni abin da na saurare ne nawa kawai, kuma na ji daɗin irin wannan bayani mai faɗi mai zurfi wanda ɗan uwa Professor Ado ya yi mana. Allah ya samu amfana da abin da ya faɗi, abin da ke sharri kuma a cikin wannan tafarki Allah ya kare mu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Sheikh, for the prayer. I will now invite Professor Mika, Alaji Jalal Arabi, former boss Nikon, to give us a goodwill message briefly. Bismillah. Or before he gets ready, can we have Professor Aminu Mikhail, my former Vice Chancellor, to give us a goodwill message? Tafaddal, sir. Professor Mikhail. I think we'll come back to them when they are ready. Oh, are they available? Professor Mikhail Jalal Arabi. Now?
Let me chip in that we have also noticed Professor Fatima Batula Mukhtar, the former VC Federal University, raising up her hand. If she's ready, we can take her as a substitute for one of them, Professor Fatima Batula Mukhtar.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you, ma.
Yes, we can hear
thank
you.
Thank you, my brother, Professor Garki, for that presentation. You have mentioned a number of things and the causes for anxiety with regards to GM foods. And you have mentioned that GM potato has been introduced in Nigeria. I want to recount my experience. I attended a course on agricultural biotechnology in Michigan some time back. And the first question that we were asked in the first class was, who would agree to eat a GM crop, maybe GM maize? And nobody raised his hand. And at the end of the class, the same question was proffered. And again, nobody raised his hands. And these are all participants from Africa. And the reasons are actually clear. Now, GM potato was introduced in the United States. And the day that GM potato was to be released, you know, people lined up before food vendors like McDonald's and so on, protesting the use of GM potatoes. And it was withdrawn, and it has not been returned. Now, most of the another aspects why we have this anxiety is because most of the crops they are reciting on are staple foods in Africa: corn, soybean, cowpea, and so on. But potato, which is their own staple food, they are not used. And I had an opportunity to ask them that question: that why is it that we withdraw the potatoes and you have not introduced it? And I said, if you would test GM foods on your own staple foods and consume it, people will not ask questions about GM maize or GM cowpea also. But Syngenta was there, Monsanto was there, USDA was there, and many others. But nobody could answer that question. And one of them, when she was going out, she tapped my shoulder and said, good question. So you see, if there is uncertainty there, and they are not willing to, experiment with their own staple foods, then why are they experimenting with ours and pushing that to us? Now, as a scientist, I have no reason to not to accept GM, because I have been eating bread, I have been taking milk, yogurt, and so on. So all that has microorganisms. But I think there is this socio-economic factors that need to be really explained. And that is why Europeans have not accepted it and have insisted on labeling. And so I believe since now Nigeria also, GMOs have started coming, we should make noise and insist on labeling, because from the points that the presenter mentioned with regards to Islamic rulings, that if some gene from haram source is taken and used, then that makes it haram also. So we should insist on labeling so that we do not fall into that. And the reason why people are saying that it is another form of colonization, that is this issue of terminator seeds. So I am very happy with this presentation, because I have been looking for an opportunity that this topic will be discussed, and the need for the ulama to be overseeing this, And it is very important to train our people in biotechnology and this GMO technology, so that they will be enlightening the public about it, and they will be spearheading the researchers and so on. And when it comes from our own people, I believe the acceptance will come more readily than when it comes from other places. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for the intervention. I also wish to bring on board another senior brother who is a farmer, crop farmer, as well as livestock farmer, a big time farmer, a commercial farmer to that effect. Dr. Mohamed Waziri Dogo. He was the CEO of the National Insurance Scheme, and currently the CMO, the medical director, CMD of Base University. Dr. Dogo, can you unmute and then give us one or two issues? You say you have issues, one or two. Mute. Dr. Waziri, Muhammad Waziri Dogo. Dr. Mohammed Waziri Dogo. Dr. Mohammed Bello Waziri Dogo.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Can you unmute yourself? Dr. Mohammed Bello. Please, Dogo.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We can hear you, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I am glad to join this discussion. First, I thank the professor for a very good paper. But going fast, very, very quickly, my concern is with this terminator gene, with the GMOs. I have a first-hand information having to plant a GMO seed next to our normal maize on my farm. And the effect of the GMO on my indigenous seed was the terminator gene affected the seed that I selected. And I intentionally did it to prove that, yes, this terminator gene has a serious effect on our indigenous seeds. When I planted the maize again, the maize that I planted that was next to the GMO farm, I sent some pictures to Dr. Ashik. If you have anything that you can display to people to see, some of the combs are completely empty. And I was made to understand the terminator gene can pollinate about 60-kilometer radius around a farm that has a GMO seed. And what that means is our indigenous plants that are sort of crossbred with the pollens from this GMO would lose their ability to produce. And that means we'll be losing our indigenous seeds. And knowing fully well that the previous year, when I bought 1 kilo of that GMO seed at 1,260 naira, 2 years down the line, when I wanted to buy the same seed, it has gone to 3,360 per kilo. And that means it will be impossible for our farmers to be able to buy if we have lost our indigenous crops. Of course, I am aware the Ministry of Science and Technology have our indigenous seeds lying down there, but can it supply the whole country with the seed? Because this is just in a laboratory quantity. So we have to look into the future, that as we encourage these GMOs to be brought into our country and looking at our most important staple foods, we will lose our indigenous grains, we will have to depend on the GMO seeds, and they will become very expensive. Our people may not be able to buy. Even if the government intervenes, why should we lose our indigenous plants? And when you look at the palatability test of the GMO foods, it's very flat. When I was a small boy, when we roast maize, the smell of maize is all over in the sky. Now you can put a grain of roasted maize into your nose. You wouldn't even smell that it is maize. It's so flat. It's tasteless. And when you look at other countries, take basmati rice, for instance. Up to now, basmati rice maintains its own palatability test qualities. And the yield is only 1.2 tons per hectare up till now. They have not agreed to change the production to 10 tons or 15 tons per hectare. It is still 1.2 tons per hectare. So if we really want to maintain the palatability, the taste, the flavor, everything of our indigenous plants, and for our people to have this, the independence to plant and replant from what they had been planting, I think we just have to find a technology that will not interfere. And these people have no business bringing GMO into our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed Bello. Waziri Dogo, like I said, he's a commercial farmer. I used to. So that's the intervention. So thank you, brothers and sisters. We have a number of brothers and sisters that have consistently raised their hands, but I think due to time constraints, we cannot have the opportunity of giving them, opportunity for them to express or to make comments. Please bear with us. I will now request Malam Dr.
Mine is just a suggestion. Oh, yeah, just a suggestion. If I will be permitted, just 1 or 2 minutes, please.
So, Dr. Howard Yunus, can you take over?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashek. Thank you so much, our distinguished brothers and sisters who contributed online in this very important discussion. Here also physically, we have another Goodwill message presenter in the person of Professor Sahalu Junaid, the Dean of Students Affairs, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Professor.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Mr. Chairman, I want to join others in congratulating IIIT, the Muslim Forum, and our expert speaker. Like Professor Shuka has said, I think your presentation has assuaged some fears. Some of the key things that I'm taking home on this GMO, this pest resistance and this invasiveness. Now, as people have spoken, I tend to understand that the invasiveness has a wider dimension than I have thought. I think the last speaker, so what I learned from the last speaker is that this invasiveness actually seems to be a characteristic of all GMOs. So this terminator gene may not be just a specific product, but rather is an element of all GMOs. Because this invasiveness, that if I understood it, so you say when it comes, it invades, and then it is the only surviving something. So what the last speaker has said seems to share more concern about that. I think this is a call for us now to look at ways that we can also get more engaged in research in these areas, because I think that is what will put us to be part of the passengers or in the driving seat in this effort. Because without that, I think just like in many other areas of life, when I look at it, I think we are facing a more serious era of colonization. Because if we have these things and they are patented, if I got you right, I think you said that the cow pea that we have, that we patented here, but that patent is like it was made open, so everybody can try it. But others, it seems they are restricted. So if we can do work, but we make it public, while others, when they do, they make it patented. If I got that correct, then I think it gives another reason why we should engage more in this research, so that we can do maybe the interrogation that Malam Usman was saying, beyond material, because a large, component of it, when it comes from the West, I believe is driven by material gains. Part of the worries are that I don't know how true it is, that the adoption of some of these GMOs is tied to some things. Like I've heard people say that if you want loan, then it is a condition that you do this. So if you hear this, certainly one is bound to, to be suspicious of this. Now, of course, the speaker has said a number of times that there are these biotechnological regulations. But this also, I think we have to be party to it for us to give interpretation beyond material. Because I have witnessed many debates, for example, in computer games. You see a professor on TV arguing that there is no evidence that computer games have any negative effect. But obviously the reality tells you that the contrary is so. And some of this, actually, there are some of these multinationals that are behind some of this, even the professors. So the only way out, I think, is for us to find ways and means to get more engaged. It is sad, of course, the professor has pointed out that, of course, we lack resources. So I think we need to do all we can to make sure that, the kind of researches that we conduct in IAR are supported more, so that we can also be active participants of this. Without us being in the forefront of this, certainly we are bound to face another phase of colonization, which is bound to be much more dangerous. Allah shkiyai. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That has brought us to the end of the Goodwill messages. But our consultation with the chairman has said we should give an opportunity for the guest speaker to come back and say a few words based on the concerns raised, if he has, because this forum is meant to be robust. It's meant to look at this matter from diverse angles. So on this note, I invite the guest speaker for a few words of, I don't want to call them rebuttals, some clarifications.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start by the observations of Mal Usman Bugazi. Yes, from my presentation, I can say, as Muslims, we are supposed to Islamize the knowledge gained to serve our purpose. So alternative ways should be looked at, and that is correct. Then to interrogate the logic, okay, the logic can also be looked at. Then issue of commercial interest of the West. Certainly there are, because all the materials have been developed by the West. So, but if a technology is developed by the West and a Muslim finds it useful, is it wrong to accept it or to use it? I don't think it is wrong. In any case, like I have said, we need to Islamize the knowledge by engaging and developing our own. The capacity is available, only that government needs to come in, because I'm not sure if our indigenous companies will invest such heavy money in the development of genetically modified organisms. The other issue, these things are all governmental. It is an international issue. It's not only for Nigeria, not only for Ghana, not only for Kenya, but it is an international issue. And these multinationals have everybody knows, they have the international control of most of these things. Even the Coca-Cola we drink, it's a multinational corporation material, even though it is produced in Kano or in Lagos. So, but as Muslims, it's good we find alternatives which would suit us and which will be in accordance to our understanding, beliefs, and cultures. Professor Batulu talked about the issue of socio-economic factors and the fact that the GM potato developed some years in the US, even the participants were apprehensive of testing it. Things must have changed, because I have seen, I was in the US, so I was in a grocery store. I wanted to buy, was it Coca Oat or something like that? So on taking the content, I was reading, then it was clearly indicated it may contain traces of genetically modified organisms. So the issue is, there is a law that GMOs should be indicated. And in most cases, in those advanced countries, they're indicating. So the consumer has the choice. You take, if there are traces, you don't care, you take it. If you care about it, you leave it. So, and I think this is what the Nigerian National Biosafety Management Agency is supposed to do and is doing. Then, issue of this terminator gene. My brother who mentioned he planted GMO and he didn't, I am not sure it was the terminator gene which prevented your grains from growing, because as far as I know, theoretically, the terminator gene technology is not allowed to be used all over the world for commercial purposes. So it might have been a different reason. And yes, the pollination can take several, a long distance, but again, up to 60 kilometers may be probably on the long side. Because in theory, even, well, depending on the nature of the pollination, honeybees can travel several distance to carry pollen, and the wind can also carry it to several distance, but I don't think it can reach up to that long time. Thirdly, you see, after getting all this, they will always come with another areas which may be subtle. Now there is what they call plant variety protection. In Nigeria, there is a plant variety protection office in the National Agricultural Seeds Council. So any community, any individual who wants to maintain his or her own crop can go and register with them, and he can keep it for use. Many people are not aware, but there is what they now call plant variety protection. Anybody can go with a sample of plant varieties and ask for it to be protected. And once he or she protects that, it becomes part of his or personal heritage, to the extent that nobody could use it without his or her consent or approval. So farmers may need to know this and see how they can join to participate in it. I was told the one of these organizations, the Nigerian Plant Breeders Association, is going to hold a seminar sometimes last week of this month on the plant variety protection. So I would urge members to please endeavor to participate so that they can also know what arrangements are put in place for maintaining indigenous plant varieties, which you all fear their loss. Thank you very much.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, let me appeal to the audience that please no one should go out. We're going to pray together when it is time. When we finish, inshallah, in the mosque. We have only 3 major things. One, the remark by the coordinator, IIIT Central Nigeria office, after which we are going to have vote of thanks by Professor Ablad Al-Hatu, and then the closing remarks by the chairman. Then we close, inshallah. So please, we expect everyone to remain. I will go together and pray together, inshallah. Now, let me invite Dr. Aliu Abubakar Tanko, the coordinator, International Institute of Islamic Thought, Central Nigeria Office, Abuja, the convener and organizer of this program, for his own remarks.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. In view of the time, and I want to believe that you will agree with me, the IIIT have opened another book which is very important, or most important, about the food, because this is a concern for everybody. And then inshallah, we'll continue to read this book until it is very, very clear to everybody, inshallah. So by this, I'm saying, this is just the beginning of discussions on this subject. Inshallah, we are going to provide more forum to digest, to understand more, inshallah, so that eventually we will be all on the same page. I know this is the work of IIIT, part of the work of IIIT, to unlock some of these issues. And inshallah, we hope it will reach out to all those concerned. In this case, everybody in Nigeria is concerned, because everybody eats food and needs food. So everybody is concerned, and we must go together. Before we call you again, I would like to say this presentation, inshallah, with the permission of the presenter, the summary of it will be available to everybody, either online or physical, who registered, who gave his or her email. The summary of it, of all the discussions, inshallah, will reach you, so that you start to review before the lecture outing, inshallah. And for those who are here, whoever did not register, should please, before leaving here, register, give your email address, so that this will be sent to you. Not only that, even the previous presentations will be sent to you, and the coming ones will also. So we are appealing to everybody to ensure that he registered, and then we will be going together. The IIIT is for all of us, and is to serve all of us. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will blaze the efforts everybody is putting. In this case, our presenter, the chairman, the commentators, and the supporters, everybody is putting his own, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it and bring the issues clearer and clearer for all of us to understand and make the best use of it. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah. That has been Dr. Aliu Abubakar Sonko, the coordinator, IIIT Central Nigeria Office, delivering his own remarks. Inshallah, just as he has said, the email matter, you are going to be part of our database if you put your email, and then inshallah, all subsequent invitations and necessary pieces of information are going to be delivered to your mail. So please endeavor to do that. The next is a vote of thanks by the Deputy Coordinator, IIIT Central Nigeria Office, and the Dean, Faculty of Education, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Professor Abdullah Al-Hatu.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. On behalf of the IIIT Central Office Nigeria, I wish to first of all register our thanks to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sparing our lives to witness this great occasion where issue that has been critical to our lives has been discussed. And we hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the light to understand it more carefully. Secondly, I would like to thank our speaker who shed light on this important issue that generated discussions, which is still going to generate, and IIIT, inshallah, is ready to put more effort in trying to solve this problem. So we thank you very much. Our chairman, who is here, who gallantly chaired this occasion to its logical conclusion, we also thank you very much. To our participants, whose presence is very important here, without them, definitely this occasion wouldn't have been possible. We thank you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you Al-Jannatul Firdaus. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much, Professor Abdullah Al-Hatu, for thanking us. Inshallah, the last but one is the closing remarks by the chairman, Malam Sheikh Salih Hussain Abubakar.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, we thank the Almighty Allah for this opportunity. And without wasting too much of our time, I should like to draw our attention to some fundamental things. One, about this issue of GMOs and so on. I shall make a special appeal that we should not become too much paranoid about it. And definitely we should encourage, seeking of knowledge and application of knowledge and respect for knowledge and support for knowledge. Whether or not the government supports us in acquisition of knowledge, particularly in these areas that we are talking about, we should try to see how we can, as an ummah, try to see how we can support acquisition of knowledge, particularly in areas that makes a lot of difference and that are very important to our people. So, and this area of biotechnology is one of them. It is very, very unfortunate if we are going to let our experts to just wither away without developing more of them who are going to help us in this trajectory. So we should have this issue of, supporting knowledge as a community. And then I would like us to be very, very pragmatic when it comes to this utilization of knowledge. Every concern should be respected, and where we can, we should investigate it, but we should not take take a position where we shall dismiss the acquisition of knowledge or the use of knowledge. And of course, research is very, very important. And in research, what happens is you don't look at one aspect of how things are done. You encourage in research to look at all things, to look in what direction, turn 90 degrees and look at another direction, and turn maybe 180 degrees and look at it in another direction. So research encourages looking at alternatives and looking at things in different ways. So we should support research in every way we can so that we can develop what is the best for us and what is going to be in the best interest of our people. And finally, we should always be guided by the provisions of our Sharia, so that because we believe the Sharia guides us only to the right path. So in everything we do, we should deploy our knowledge of the Sharia to make sure that we are doing the right thing in whatever we do. So having said that, I should like to also thank everybody for coming. And somebody came and gave a vote of thanks, and I think I should thank him also. So thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Alhamdulillah. That has been the chairman saying his closing remarks. He concluded by thanking the thanker. Yes, I can say that. Let's not repeat around. So I would have said, let's thank the chairman too. Inshallah, our announcement now is as soon as we get out, we are going together to the veterinary mosque, inshallah. That is where we're going to pray together. And then for all this one and other previous presentations and even subsequent ones, inshallah, they're going to be sent to us through the mails we have given. So those who have not put their own emails, either online or physical participants, you should endeavor to do that so that you are carried along in all, inshallah, presentation. With this, we have come to the end. I now invite Dr. Shehu Ado Garki to say the closing prayer. Dr. S.S. Umar, Dr. Shehu Salihu Umar.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت ورحمت وبارك على آل إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. May Allah reward our resource persons abundantly. May Allah grant us the ability to utilize the knowledge and the wisdom shared. Those that have traveled far and wide to come to grace this occasion, may Allah return them back safely. May Allah continue to grant us good health and prosperity. Our country, Nigeria, may Allah continue to bless and protect us. The Muslims all over the world that are suppressed, may Allah SWT come to their aid. May Allah SWT grant us good ending. Our parents, may Allah SWT continue to bless them. Those among us that have died, may Allah SWT have mercy on them and grant them the Jannah Firdaus. We that are living, may Allah SWT grant us good ending. Our children and our progeny, may Allah SWT continue to guide and protect them upon the right path. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan.